Hello, welcome to Kitchen Basics 101, where I teach you the bare bone basics as if you have never cooked a day in your life from the perspective of a mom. I'm going to make one of the easiest comfort foods in the whole world, pastina. You can use other noodles if you have a hard time finding these little stars pastina. You can use like orzo. Any tiny pasta will work. And I imagine it would also work, honestly, with rice. We might just have to like switch up a little bit the liquids and the starches. But it's like, they call it Italian penicillin, but it's basically like what your nonna would give you if you were sick or if you were like a little kid, or it's like the chicken soup for the soul. I always start by getting all my ingredients out. So I'm going to use chicken bone broth. You could use any kind of chicken stock. And if you wanted to make this vegetarian, just switch out the stock for vegetable stock. But bone broth has 9 grams of protein per serving, so we're gonna use bone broth. I am gonna use an egg, but again, if you wanted to make this vegetarian, instead of using an egg, which I know some vegetarians eat eggs, but if you don't eat eggs, you can use butter. But I'm gonna use an egg. And then we're going to use some Parmigiano Reggiano, the broth on to start. Now, again, I'm using bone broth. Now, a lot of people use a ratio of 3-to-1. So 3 cups bone broth with 1 cup of pastina. My issue is that this container is 4 cups of broth. And this is basically a standard container that all broths come in. So why am I going to make a recipe that uses 3 cups? I'm going to use a recipe that uses 4 cups. So we're going to put 4 cups, and instead of a cup to 3 cups, we'll do like a cup and a quarter or a cup and a half. It's forgiving. You know, moms don't measure, but I'm going to use the whole container. I love this thing. It makes such quick work. Jobs like this. Probably not going to use all this cheese, but that's why I'm grating it directly into a container that I can just pop in the fridge. Twofer. Get it down. I keep these little rinds and I put them in the freezer, so when I make a bolognese or I make sauce, I throw them in. So I always keep these little bits of rind. Our 4 cups of bone broth is rocking. So here's 1 cup of pastine, and there's a half a cup. So that's 1.5 cups. There's not that much left in here. So like if I don't know, I'll save it, but I prefer to put the whole thing in. Okay, we're gonna give that a stir, and we're just gonna cook it for a couple of minutes until we can get all this liquid to be absorbed. So I'll set a timer for 6 minutes. I'll be back to check on it. Okay, so I get asked a lot like what heat this is on. Like this is on medium. You can see it's boiling. That's because this is my large burner. Like you have smaller burners and larger burners. This is after 6 minutes. I would say this is a little bit more porridgey than I usually do it. So I'd probably do 1.25 cups instead of 1.5 cups, but it's fine. It's gonna work. Off the heat, this is very important. Off the heat, you're going to beat 1 or 2 eggs. And like I said, if you don't want to use eggs, you can use butter here. So you could put a nice big knob of butter in, but traditionally, or maybe regionally, you're going to use eggs. Off the heat, you're going to add a handful. Listen, cheese is a thing you do with your heart. A handful or 2 of Parmigiano Reggiano, and you're going to stir it in. Here, I'll get above so I can show you. Hold on. And you're going to stir it in, and the residual heat is going to melt the cheese up, okay? And I'm going to do this before I do the eggs, just so that I take the heat down a little bit before I add the eggs. Ooh, we got steam, guys. We got steam. See how it just all melted in there? It's a little more porridgey. You might want a little more broth normally. All right. Now we're going to add our beaten eggs, and we're going to do the same thing. Okay, we're going to pour in our gently beaten egg. And we're going to stir that around. We don't want scrambled eggs, but I promise there's heat in here to cook the eggs, okay? Don't worry. But if you are scared of the eggs, use butter, okay? So we're just going to give that a good stir. Oh my gosh, look how gorgeous. Looks like polenta, doesn't it? Look at how gorgeous and creamy. To do the most important part, we got to taste. A little bit of salt and pepper. But ask me, how much salt, how much pepper? You got to taste. That's the only way you're going to know. Depends on your taste buds. Depends on your salt. Depends on your stock. So many things. If you use salted butter instead of the eggs. Oh, I think I'm out of pepper, guys. Okay. Give that a good stir. Well, she's loose enough. Clean tasting spoon. Perfect. Obviously, you could garnish with a little Parmigiano. If you wanted this to be a little fresher, brighter, you could do a little squeeze of lemon or some fresh herbs over the top. So simple. So basic. Actually, a lot of protein because I use the bone broth. A couple eggs, some cheese. If you were sick, that would definitely do the trick.